Golf Smarter number 667 is brought to you by TGW, the sweetest spot in golf. Right now, all Golf Smarter listeners receive 20% off on apparel. And if you go to tgw.com/golfsmarter, you'll land on a page that gets you directly to all the sale items being offered. Of course, some exclusions apply, nor can this discount be combined with other discount offers. And due to manufacturer policies, some other items may be excluded, and those exclusions include Titleist, FootJoy, Under Armour items, and select Nike items. But to see the apparel that qualify for our 20% off sale, go to tgw.com/golfsmarter. You'll see the instruction to enter a coupon code GolfSmarter at checkout to make sure that you get that 20% discount. But I want to direct you to one of my favorite items that is part of this 20% off sale right now. I'm not a huge fan of baseball-style caps. Yeah, you know, everyone wears them, but I once produced a video for a dermatology office and learned that baseball caps aren't really very good protection for you. I mean, sure, your eyes may be covered blocked from the sun, but what about your ears and your neck and the back of your neck? It's amazing how bad that is for you to have that exposed. It's very sensitive skin. I learned way too much in that video. But I wear, and you should be wearing if you're out there playing golf, a full-brimmed hat, like a bucket hat. Or my favorite is the Aussie Chiller Bushy Perforated hat. And they have these on sale right now, and you'll get an additional 20% off. It's the ultimate summer cooling comfort hat, okay? So all you do, if you're playing during the summer and it's really, really hot out, you soak it in cold water, and it keeps your head cool. But it doesn't ruin the hat, right? It's designed to be soaked in chilled water for the cooling headwear. And they remain cool for a long time, for hours, right? And it also, I'll tell you, I've traveled with this hat. I went to South America with this hat, and I had it packed in my case. You'll never know when this thing gets packed. It always looks good. It's crushable and never loses its shape. It's got a soft wireless brim that holds the shape. It stops your sweat before it stains. It travels beautifully. And even if you're playing in the rain, it blocks that out. And the thing that blew me away is on windy days, this thing is it's got a fitted thing around your head, right? It's fitted so that on windy days, I've never had it blow off. Even when I'm on boats, it never blows off. That's the Aussie Chiller Bushy Perforated hat. Highly recommend you look into that and take advantage of that 20% additional discount to what they're offering. So again, the exclusive Golf Smarter 20% off sale ends February 5th, 2019 at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. That's tgw.com/golfsmarter, or click on the link in today's show notes or their ad at golfsmarter.com. And I'd really like to thank TGW for their support of the Golf Smarter podcast. To play better, you need to clear your mind. Then don't play golf swing, just play golf with Ian Clark.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Ian.
Hello, Fred.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, sir. Thank you for asking.
I'm so fascinated. You reached out to me, and you're based in London or around London?
That's correct. Well, I'm just outside of London. The sort of geographical purposes, I'm about a mile from Wimbledon, where the tennis is held.
Okay.
So that gives people a bit of an idea as to where we are. So we call it London.
All right, fine. So you reached out to me because you said you are a Golf Smarter listener, but you're a golf instructor.
Correct. So I have about a 30 to 40 minute commute into work. And so it's about an hour in the car each day. So there's a number of podcasts that I like to listen to.
Love hearing that.
One of which is yours. And obviously It's just good education for me as a golf coach. Some of the guys you're getting on there are great. Scott Fawcett was brilliant the other day that I was listening to.
Thank you.
John Sherman, Practical Golf. Again, it's just great information for golfers. And a lot of the stuff, to be honest, Fred, I just steal straight off you and pass it on to my students.
Well, that's where I was going. Why? Because to me, this program is directed at amateur golfers and, how we can improve. So I talk to people who add value to that because I'm not adding anything. So I'm just curious as why a golf instructor would be listening to this podcast.
Anytime I think you get the chance to listen to some of the extremely clever people in our industry, not that I'm lumping myself in that, it's just a great learning opportunity for not just for golfers and recreational golfers, but for coaches as well. And it's just about continuing to learn and pick up little bits and pieces. Like I said, that I can then use on my lesson tee and pass on to the guys that I'm working with. If it helps somebody play a bit better, then that makes me look really good. So thanks for that. And it's just helping people play golf a bit better, isn't it? So anything that will give me a little bit of an in with a student doesn't do any harm.
Oh, that is so cool. Can you please write a review in iTunes that says that?
Yeah, of course I can. No problem.
So what kind of information have you walked away with that you use, that you repeat from various shows? I'm fascinated. It's like, what are your takeaways as an instructor?
Sure. Well, I think that the Scott Fawcett stuff is great because it's all about expectations, isn't it? I was talking to a guy earlier today who was having a lesson, and I've got Trackman running here. He hits a 7-iron, the ball's 25 foot left of the hole, and he's freaking out like someone's just shot him. Like, well, actually, that's really okay. So we pull up the PGA Tour website, and you have a look and say, well, look, at 150 yards, I think the leader in that distance after 5 events this year was something like 20 foot from the hole. So, come on, you don't do this for your living. You haven't got your name on your bag, so it's not that you're that good yet. So it's okay to hit it from there. So that's just getting some of the data like that off someone like Scott, who I think is great and would really recommend your guys, have a look at the decade stuff that he does. Again, John Sherman with his Practical Golf. The name of the book, is it 101 Mistakes Every Golfer Makes, was it called?
Yeah.
I'm thinking on my feet here.
Not a teacher, just an average golfer too.
But wow, what great insight. And you start looking at stuff about strategies and playing holes and looking at it a little bit differently than the norm. Mm-hmm. And I suppose that's, again, just managing expectations and then certainly giving my students practice plans to work on, because by and large golfers aren't great at practicing what they're not very good at.
Right.
But if you can sort of sell it to them along the lines of, well, actually, this might be a more worthwhile half an hour spent hitting 50-yard wedge shots and trying to dial that in than just standing there smashing the driver down the fairway. So it's I suppose little pieces like that. Some of the informational stuff we've got, I'm trying to think now off the top of my head here.
Oh, that's okay.
Who was I listening to? The putting stuff that you did not long ago.
Right.
Who did you have doing the
Mark
putting
Derland.
stuff?
Was that Mark
Yes.
Derland? Yeah. Breaking it up
stuff.
into 3 sections. Your
Here
putts.
you go.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff.
I
So
love
again,
that.
and that just gives me a slightly different way of looking at maybe a putting lesson for a student, and that's just great insight. So I ran off with all of that. So that was another one I stole off you. So it's just, I suppose for me, it's just keeping the ideas fresh on the lesson tee, and I suppose then just showing my students that I'm as keen about improving myself as a coach as I hope they are improving themselves as golfers.
So when you repeat these pearls of wisdom that you've heard on the show, do you take credit for it, or you tell people you got it on Golf Smarter and get them to listen too?
No, I take all the credit myself. Of course I do. No, so I...
Thanks. Great talking to you. I'll see you later.
Yeah. Fred, the phone line's gone dead. Are you still there? No. I have a monthly newsletter that I send out to my sort of database of people. I'm always putting podcasts and books that I'm reading, just again to get people looking at different things that they can work on. I think I said to one of my coaches here the other day, I was showing him a drill that I'd stolen that I'd seen on I'd seen Sean Foley do. Mm-hmm. And he said, wow, this is great. Did you come up with this? I said, no, I just stole it off someone else. And anything I've ever got is just stolen off someone else. And it's all just recycled and then passed it on, isn't it?
Yep. Most things
nothing's
in
original.
life. Nothing's original.
It's not changed a lot, this game, since they were shepherds whacking a golf ball around in a field somewhere, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's really that fascinates me, and I really appreciate it. And I definitely, for this episode, I'll send you some artwork and links so that you can make sure that you send your email out and tell them that you're on the show.
Cool. That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be really good.
And we're going to expose you for what you've been stealing the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Suddenly everyone will rumble me.
So you've been teaching, you're teaching just about 30 minutes outside of London now. And what I read on your website is you've taught all over the world.
Yeah. So I qualified as a member of the British PGA a million years ago, back in 1994.
Oh, the last century. Oh, man. That's just
I'm really
so
old.
far
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, it's black and white TV and all sorts of things.
No.
So I did my apprenticeship at a very traditional English golf club, where as the sort of the assistants pro, I was just slightly beneath the club dog, where you sort of had to clean trolley wheels and clean golf shoes of members. And it was a real apprenticeship, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I was allowed to go and practice for an hour a day when I wasn't in the shop looking after the shop, and I got paid to do that at the end of the week. Not a huge amount of pounds, but someone was actually paying me to do what I loved doing. So as a young boy who just left school, this was heaven. And then I qualified, as I say, in '94, and the opportunity came about to work at a golf club out in Dubai in the Middle East. Now, bearing in mind, Dubai didn't look like it does right now, so it was a great experience. I was only 21, was I at the time? 21, 22. So that was a great opportunity for me, and that's really where sort of teaching it was a full-time teacher's position. So that's why I really sort of started to develop, teaching skills and just teaching a lot, which I think anyone listening who's a young instructor who wants to get good at teaching, you've got to teach a lot. You may have all the knowledge in the world, but you've got to get yourself in front of as many people as you can. And that was something that I had the opportunity to do. So now that was great fun. That was 5 years out in the Middle East. And it was just a great, not just golf learning, but life learning stuff. I've been living at home, and suddenly I had to figure out how to clean things and cook things. And it was great fun. So no, that was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed my time out there.
Wow. That's a great story.
Yeah, it was great fun.
And recently you've been named one of the top 100 teachers in the UK. And also, I don't even know, what is an advanced fellow for the British PGA? What does that mean?
I'm not supposed to say this, but I'm not too sure myself. No, we have.
You're an advanced fellow.
I know. It sounds great, doesn't it? I've even got a plaque on the wall and everything. No, we have. How's the easiest way to explain this? Because this might be a whole nother podcast, and if the British PGA listens to this, I'm going to be in trouble.
Don't worry about that. I really don't think that the US or the British PGA is listening to this.
So I suppose it's different levels showing continued education for professional members. So once you become a full member, if you like, of the British PGA, you're then encouraged to continue your learning. And so you'll attend various seminars, do various educational summits, which you would obtain ongoing education points. And also it's sort of looking at stuff you may have done, maybe coaching other coaches, stuff you've done, sort of golf in the community, things like that. So there's about 4 different levels. So the big level to get to is a PGA Master Professional, who may be someone like Dennis Pugh, for example, Francesco Molinari's coach. Mm-hmm. He would be he's one of our master professionals. So a PGA Advanced Professional is one rung down from there. There you go. That's a long story short.
Yeah, that was good. You got right back to where you needed to be.
There you go. Phew. That was harder than giving a golf lesson. So it's a way of sort of looking at I suppose a member's level of competence, let's say.
All right, that's fair. So what have you developed as your teaching philosophy?
Oh, that's a question.
Over all of this time and all these locations and people, what do you consider is your philosophy on teaching?
I If you'd asked me that 10 years ago, it was probably a different answer to what I'm going to give you today. I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate in that I coach. I use a lot of technology in my coaching. We have TrackMan here. We use Body Track. We use K-Vest, which certainly helps us look at the golf swing in a different way. But I think a lot of golfers would see an instructor with lots of technology and think it's going to be very technical. It's going to be lots of fancy words. But actually, I use technology more to keep an eye on me, and that the information we're passing on to the student is actually making the student better. So a good example may be on TrackMan, a club path measurement. So club path is the direction of the golf club, if you like, how it's traveling relative to the target through impact. So if somebody is swinging a long way across the ball, creating a bit of a slice, and what we're doing doesn't change that number, then it's time to go about a different tack. So a lot of the time I always feel certainly something like a TrackMan is actually keeping its eyes on me, and I'm accountable to TrackMan rather than it looking at the student and stressing the student out because you can't shift the thing sort of 1 degree in either direction. One of the beauties, again, of using TrackMan is just a contact's king. I think that's a big thing that your listeners really need to get into. Strike of the golf ball is just massive. Any drills you can do that helps you with your contact, finding the middle of the club face is going to help you. Lots of golfers that I see have got more than enough club speed to hit the ball further than they hit it, but the ball speed isn't efficient, if you like, because of the quality of the strike of the golf ball. So that's a big thing of what I teach. We look a lot at strike, a lot of matching up the face angle to the club path, hitting a functional shot that is, if it's going to curve, let's have it curving towards the target and not further away from the target.
Yeah, that's why is that so obvious and nobody gets it?
That's a good question, but contact's king. It really is. It's TrackMan now measures impact location in millimeters, so it's kind of scary when you're seeing how much ball speed is lost on a strike that's just a few millimeters off center. Anything your listeners can be doing to help their strike is going to be advantageous to them down the road.
Like what?
There's a question. So my favorite one.
You set it up. What can we do to improve that?
Well, the first thing is get some feedback in your strike. So the obvious one is get some athlete's foot spray powder, spray the club face, and start seeing where the ball's coming off the face of the club. It's going to scare you to start with. Second thing, then let's make a little gate for you. So one of my favorite drills, and I put a picture of this on my Twitter feed a couple of days ago. If you imagine the golf club sitting behind the ball, just put one tee peg just outside of the toe of the club, and then another tee peg just inside the heel of the club. So you've got a gate in which to swing through. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then from there, just hit some shots. And can you get your golf club to strike the ball without disturbing either of the two tee pegs?
Wow.
That's a great drill. Now, obviously, you can make it a little easier, a little harder. Depends if I like the student. But the feedback you get from that, again, if you've only got 20 minutes to practice, what a great way to do it. And you're really dialing in on that strike. And when you start finding the middle of the club face, then your distance changes. The launch angle changes. The launch angle is the height the ball leaves the ground. Many golfers I see, because of a poor contact, just don't hit the thing high enough. So you're going into a green and the ball's going in there at knee high and it hops through the back of the green. Well, it needs to be high enough to stop on the green when it lands. And a lot of that is down to that quality of strike. So I love that gate drill. That's probably one of my favorite ones to get people to do.
How much clearance on either side of the club face should we set those tees up to give it through? Should it be really tight, or are you going to give yourself a little? Yeah,
it should be quite tight, but maybe start with a little gap. If you've got the face sprayed, then you can see if you're swinging through the gap, but the ball mark on the club face still isn't out of the center. Tighten your tolerances a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, play around a little bit with it, but that's a great one. That's one of my favorites for really helping people with dialing in on strike. And obviously then after a while, there are things going on in the golf swing that can cause the off-centered hit. So that's often what I get is people say, well, that's great, Ian. I can see it's out of the heel, but what on earth am I doing that's causing it to come out of the heel? Well, now you're into $1 million question. Now you need to start getting your local golf pro to have a little look at you, get some swings on video and have a look as to why. But just trying to swing through a gate will really focus your mind. And if you practice it often enough, you'll actually start to, when you're on the course playing, visualize the 2 tees are there. I get a lot of students say that was their only swing thought, which I'm sure some of the golf mind guys that you've had on the podcast in the past would really like, because it's not too technical. And just literally imagining there's 2 white tees either side of the club head, and their only thought for the day is, can I swing through the gate, swing through the tees?
Yeah.
It works well.
Oh, yeah. I like that a lot. I'm definitely going to do that. But first, I get that spray, the foot spray, right?
Yeah, get the foot spray. You have Dr. Scholl's Odor X, it's called. I'm an expert in all things foot spray, let me tell you. And for anyone over here in the UK, it's called Dactarin is what you need.
Okay, Dr. Scholl's foot spray.
Yeah, it's Odor X. You need to get the powder, by the way. There's a little disclaimer. If you buy the clear stuff, you can't see it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you think it makes sense. Yeah.
So you said you put this stuff up on Twitter? How do we find you on Twitter?
I'm just Ian Clark Golf on Twitter, so I'll occasionally, I'm not super on there a lot, but I try and just put some pictures of some exercises and drills that I do to maybe help some people who are maybe listening, just again to help people with their game. So I put a lot of if I do a specific practice station or a drill, I'll just take a picture of it and post it up there so people can see exactly how I set it up. So I know there's a picture of the gate drill on there. I did that a couple of days ago. I actually did it for a student because he couldn't remember how to do it, so I just posted it up on there.
Excellent advice. Thank you very much. Hey, listen, we're going to do a quick timeout right here, and cool. We'll be right back. For all that you use, and you talk about enjoying technology and getting more and more involved with the technology for your teaching, there are probably some old school guys that are saying that it's hurting the game, it's hurting instruction. Are there times you feel like it's overwhelming you? There's too much technology?
I'm going to be on the side of the fence that says no to that. I think it's all very useful. I think the problem to start with, certainly if there's a young instructor and he's just got his TrackMan and is fresh out of the box and he's made a big investment, these things aren't cheap, and he can't wait to tell that guy in front of him every bit of data on the screen. And there's a ton of data on the screen. And half of it, no more than half of it, the golfer doesn't really need to know, nor does he care half the time. He just wants the thing to go further. So oftentimes on my TrackMan screen, I have 2 screens in my golf academy. So on the TrackMan screen, I'll have only one box, and that one box is the one that says side. And that's simply telling the player where the ball has finished relative to the target line. It's quite an important one.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I think sometimes if a listener of yours has maybe gone and had a lesson and maybe had a bad experience with technology from a teaching side, maybe it's just a little bit of information overkill. And I think it's how that information is passed on to the student via the instructor as to whether I think we're seeing the technology hurting or hindering. But I think it's definitely a help. It's made my job easier because I can get my message across to someone much quicker than I was ever able to do just verbalizing it backwards and forwards.
You know, with all this technology that we're using in so many different ways, we get concerned about information overload. And it's how you use the information. And I think that the overload comes is when you try to use all that information when you step up to the ball to swing when you're during a round.
Couldn't agree more.
Have too much going on in your head, right?
Couldn't agree more. So again, there's got to be a point there when you stick the tee in the ground on that first tee and the music gets really loud and the curtains are drawn back and the lights on you, you've got to play golf. You can't be playing golf swing. And I'll say to my students, if you're thinking about your golf swing on that first tee and you're worried about where the club shaft is halfway back, you just haven't done your homework. You're not ready. You haven't done the work that probably the coach had asked you to do before standing on that first tee. And it's too late then. Someone once say you got to dance with who you brung. You just got to get on with it and go find it. Yeah, golf course is not the place to start fiddling around with your golf swing, because it's nearly always only going to end one way, and it's never good.
I love that concept of go out and play golf, don't play golf, swing. Let's clear our mind. How do we clear our mind with all that, and get away from the focus of, personally, I can't tell you how many times that I've had conversation with somebody and their focus is totally on the ball, and then I say something like, "Well, actually, that's just the middle of your swing."
Yeah,
and they're like, "No, not true at all." It's like, really?
Yeah, again, I think it's. I think a lot of the things from talking to golfers is a couple of bad shots early on in the round. That person is going to go hunting for more information, and they may start with. I'm always going to sound contradictory here. I quite like my player to have maybe one pre-swing thought and one swing thought. I think it's hard to play with no thoughts, because if there's nothing in your head, something's going to jump in there, so you may as well make it good. So I've never been able to.
You don't know me that well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think then after a couple of maybe bad shots, suddenly then the player's mindset would change. Right, well, I know I've got to do X, but now I know I'm doing Y wrong as well, so I better add that to my list. Down. Now that's gone wrong. Now I need to start doing Z as well. So now we've gone from one thought to three thoughts, and none of it's working. The heart rate's up, and it's all becoming a bit of an emotional tailspin. So I would challenge any of your listeners to try and do that in their next round. See if they can be disciplined enough to just stick with one pre-swing thought. That might be something as simple as toes up at setup, so the pressure's not out towards the toes. Can you curl your toes up inside your shoes? Yeah, done that, so I'm balanced. And then just a swing thought as much as, can I finish in balance? Nothing too technical. Can I do that? And try that every shot for the whole round. You're not allowed to change it. Even if you rack up an 8 on a hole, you got to stick with it. And that's hard. I think Arnold Palmer called it stick-to-itiveness. Stick to something long enough to perfect it. Don't go, oh, that didn't work, let me try something else. Yeah, and I think that's maybe some of the issues that we get with golfers on the golf course. It's, oh, I hit a bad shot. Any idea what I did wrong there, Fred? And yeah, you did this. Okay, let me try that on the next shot. It's not that easy.
And the easiest answer there is, oh, yeah, you lifted your head.
That's just job security for me as a golf coach, because all the time that's just that's kept me in goodness knows what. Yeah, I mean, honestly,
explain that. What do you mean?
Well, it's just it's well-meaning advice and it's well meant, but I've got golf swings on my video system. I must have thousands of golfers hitting bad shots. I'm not sure one of them's hit a bad shot just purely because he's lifted his head up. I mean, really, if it were that easy a thing to do, why would any of us ever do it wrong? We wouldn't, would we? And half the time, it's the fact that you're trying to keep your head down for so darn long is what's creating the problem. So the head stays down too long, the body stops rotating through the ball. We think we're going to hit the ground and the arms pull up and in. There's the issue. Look, be more Henrik Stenson. You know, you can picture Henrik Stenson, the Swedish player.
Keep going.
Now I've got you thinking. So if you look at Henrik, when Henrik's into his follow-through, when the shaft of the club is about level with the ground on the follow-through, his eyes are following the golf ball. Now, lots of your listeners, all due respect, don't pelt me on Twitter for this, but probably a lot of your guys would still have their eyes still firmly fixed on a random spot on the ground. The body stopped turning. The elbows pull apart. We know that the elbows should stay fairly close together on the way through, and the ball's squirreling off to the ground. And the next shot, you're going to try and keep your head down even longer. Yeah, we're compounding the error now. I'd say to you, keep your eye on the ball. And by that, I mean, once you've hit it, guess what? Let your eyes go follow the flight of the ball. Can you see the ball in its entirety? That's a great one. I know Martin Chuck of Tour Striker. I think you've had him on the podcast, have you not?
Many times. I was just about to bring him up.
Right.
Because
Martin's
he was on
big on this.
Yeah. Martin's great.
And Martin's wonderful. What a great instructor.
Yep.
Great information he's putting out there for golfers. And that's a big one of his. Just follow the flight of the ball in its entirety. And that's great. It suddenly fixes a lot of ills, especially on short game. Fred, you're getting a lot of guys hitting shots and those little nervy little 30, 40-yard pitch shots, and guys are staying down so long, the body just quits turning, the arms pull up and in, and all heck's breaking loose.
Oh my God!
You want the chest to just keep turning on those. Yeah, so follow the flight to the ball would be my advice.
Great. Yeah, I was going to suggest when you're talking about you're not following through, you're not letting your body follow through. Martin Chuck was on a couple episodes ago, and he talked about that Tour Striker Smart Ball that he has. And
wonderful. Best training aid you can get hold of.
I took one out. I had one, and it had been sitting in my collection of stuff. I hadn't taken it out. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to look at his video, and I'm going to pull out this little Smart Ball. And I was amazed at how quickly it fell out of my arms. And then so I've been working on that. I haven't had a chance to work on it and then go out to the golf course, but I'm really feeling good about the progress I'm making on keeping that thing between my arms.
Yeah, and it's a great trainer. So back to what you said about golf course thoughts. I use the Smart Ball a lot, and again would encourage your listeners to go and get hold of one of these. And I'll have students hit, again, that 30, 40-yard wedge shot. Just start gentle shots, trying to keep the Smart Ball in place. And as they're doing it, it's amazing watching how to keep the thing in place. The chest has to gently rotate through the ball to allow the arms to work properly. And there's a great thought for the golf course. Can you keep your elbows together on the course? That's not too technical. It's not going to create loads of tension. It's just a lovely visual for people to have.
Mm-hmm.
The Smart Ball's really good. Yeah. So be careful with the whole head down. A quick story. I was obviously on my driving range here. I've got a 60-bay range where I'm coaching from, and my golf school is sort of at the far end. So I walk past a lot of golfers, and I've got a guy hitting golf balls there the other day, and his buddy shouts out, "Now on this one, I'll watch the ball for you. You just keep looking at the ground well after you've hit it." It's like, oh, come on, fellas. We've got to be better than this. It's awful advice.
Okay, then I'll never give it again.
Okay, good man. You're allowed to come and coach. You've passed the Ian Clark Instructor Certification Program, Fred. You got a job.
Oh, my gosh. Am I an advanced fellow?
No, just advanced.
Okay.
You haven't got the accent for the advanced fellow bit yet.
No, I don't. I really, really don't. No, what about keeping your head down or your head still on putting?
Okay, now, so really good advice. Yeah, so of course now we're talking about a thing that we're trying to roll a few feet along the ground where we don't want to move a lot because we don't want to hit the ball very far. Mm-hmm. That's the big difference, isn't it? You're just trying to roll a thing along the ground. So, yeah, I think.
But I notice I've been practicing trying to keep my head straight down, not following the ball at all, and notice that I'm hitting the ball much better on my line when I don't move and I just kind of like listen to see if it's going to drop or not. But that's really good. Yeah, I definitely see the problem when I strike the ball and immediately following it with my head, not my eyes, following the ball as rolling, and I'm doing much better that way.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think, again, one of the common faults I see with putting is not so much, not the head coming up as much, but more once the putt's been struck, the golfer allowing his head to rotate, let's say to the left for a righty. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, as he starts to then look to follow the flight, he then comes up and out of his posture a bit, which then, of course, pulls the putter offline. That's going to affect the putter face. So I often do a drill, again, hard to imagine, but if your listeners can imagine setting up for a putt with their head up against a brick wall, and then hitting the putt, and then once they know the ball's on its way, keeping their head against the brick wall, but now just rotate your head to follow the flight of the ball, but staying in your putting posture, if you like. So there's no lifting up of the chest, which can affect the path of the putter, especially if it's done a little prior to impact. And, of course, when we're putting, our room for error is getting ever smaller, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great advice. That is great advice. Thank you. I love the visual of keeping your head up against the wall. It reminds me of the advice that we got once from Dr. Joe Perrin of Zen Golf when he said, if you struggle with, you think you're lifting your head on your full swing, then just think about the fact that you're standing next to a cabinet, and the cabinet door is open, and if you lift your head, you're going to whack your head on the cabinet door.
Perfect. And again, a great visual for the golf course. There's something you can think in images a bit more on the golf course, I think really helps.
Yeah.
So that's again, a nice sort of swing thought without being super technical, that one of your guys can visualize and carry that with him the whole round.
Fabulous. How do we find your website?
Nice and easy. My marketing department took ages on this. It's ianclarkgolf.co.uk.
Okay, Ian Clark Golf. Clark is C-L-A-R-K. ianclarkgolf.co.uk.
That's me.
Ian, I really appreciate you reaching out and sharing what you're doing, and also just the idea that I'm still kind of amazed that an instructor would be listening to this to pass along more information, but it kind of makes sense because that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and Fred, it's great stuff. I mean, keep doing what you're doing. I'm sure I'm not the only instructor who listens, and lots of us are getting some really good stuff from you. As I say, when you're getting people like Martin Chuck on there, Scott Fawcett, you're really speaking to some good guys, and it's great information you're getting out, and it's just helping people play this wonderful but rather frustrating game a little bit better.
So interesting. And I just love the fact that he's in London. That is so cool. So last week we awarded Swat Fruxwan our Golf Smarter Championship Toolkit. And this week he sent me a picture of himself wearing his new Golf Smarter cap. Now, I'll post the picture on today's blog post at golfsmarter.com and also put it in our Golf Smarter Facebook page. Thank you, Swat, for sending me that picture. And if you're interested in one of these caps, send me an email or post a note on Twitter, #GolfSmarter, and let me know if you have a color preference. And if we get enough people who want to order these, we'll buy a whole bunch of them and sell them on the site. But there is no prize announcement this week because I wanted to make sure that everyone gets their entries in for our last two prizes of the year. Now, next week, we'll be giving out a 1-year subscription to the Decade Golf System app that we learned about in our last episode. I'm sorry that I promised you a conversation with Cody Hale of Seymour Putters this week, but his schedule changed, and now I'm going to guarantee that next week Cody will be on the show. And what I loved about getting Cody on in the last week leading up to our Seymour Putter Grand Prize giveaway is that now you're going to get a chance to learn how he does an over-the-phone fitting that the winner is going to receive, or for that matter, anyone who orders a new putter from Seymour receives. And since Cody is Director of Tour Operations, we'll also hear about who on the tour plays the Seymour putters. And if possible, I'm going to try and get Cody to talk about their new Platinum series of putters that are coming out in 2019, and they've yet to speak of it publicly. So hopefully we'll get a scoop on that. So make sure your name is on the list to one of these two great final prizes that we have, the Decade Golf app system and a Seymour putter. You get the Decade Golf as a year-long subscription. And if you've already registered once, you're still eligible for every one of these last drawings, whether you've won or not. Deadline to enter for the Decade Golf app subscription is this Sunday, December 16 at midnight Pacific time, 3 a.m. Eastern. And then to make sure you're eligible for the Seymour putter, our final sign-ups expire on December 23rd, 2018. So sign up now at golfsmarter.com/giveaway. And I wanted to clarify how to get to our older shows. Because I get people asking me, like, I can't find, where am I going to find the older ones? You know, all podcast aggregators, including iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, wherever you find Golf Smarter, and all those places now have Golf Smarter available, they only carry the last 300 episodes of any podcast. But Golf Smarter has almost 700 episodes in our archives, and there's some really, really good shows that you won't find anywhere except for one place, smarter.golf. Even the servers of our home site of golfsmarter.com, they can't sustain all that data. But smarter.golf, not .com, smarter.golf is the URL you need. And it is our Blog Talk Radio site. And they've agreed to make every episode available forever. It's smarter.golf. Or if you need to be technical about it, it's blogtalkradio.com/golfsmarter. But I got this special URL and just wanted to send you directly to smarter.golf for access to our entire library, going back to our first episode called Zen Golf with Dr. Joe Parent, published in December of 2005. That's right. About to begin our 14th year. Don't forget to go to tgw.com/golfsmarter for 20% off apparel with the coupon code GolfSmarter, one word, GolfSmarter at checkout. The exclusive GolfSmarter 20% off apparel sale ends February 5, 2019 at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at GolfSmarter, or click on the Hey Fred button. Hey Fred. Hey, Fred button at golfsmarter.com.